Good sunny afternoon, and I certainly hope it is wherever you might be today. I'm Ag Director Bridgette Readel. Hopefully, you are finding fields that are dry, the wind is down, not blowing soil around in the air. Personally, at that point, I feel like it just became dirt, right? Our friend of the show, Sarah, always said soil is a living thing. But when it's up in the air like that, I feel a lot less like it's a living thing at that moment. So glad the wind has died down. Things are running just a little bit better and more smoothly. And thankfully, so we're seeing more folks getting into the field whenever possible. Now, we know that it's on a field by field basis. In the travels that I've had this week, as well as others, we're not necessarily kicking it in a widespread area yet. I had a conversation this morning with some folks up by Berthold, west of Minot. They are, in fact, in the field up there going gangbusters. As you get probably further south of Fargo towards the Wahpeton area, see more and more folks getting into the field and getting some work done. But we still have areas that just haven't really taken off as far as a lot of their spring planting yet. A number of that, one, we're waiting for the conditions to be right. We're also, if we're kind of on the bubble where we're not really sure we should go yet, then we have to be thinking ahead about if we get some moisture this weekend, what's that going to do to whatever seed is in the ground and so forth. So a lot of decisions being made. We're going to get a crop planted eventually. We always do. In fact, I saw a statistic this morning that I thought was pretty interesting and I wanted to share. And it's just a reminder that under the right condition, farmers across the United States can get 40% of the national corn crop planted in 1 week. 1 week, no breakdowns, great conditions. Again, that's 40% of our crop. It's a pretty crazy statistic to think about. And as we have watched field sizes increase, certainly we've watched equipment increase. We know that that might be a record that only lasts for a short while until it's broken one more time. So we'll be following that as our planting progress continues across the United States throughout the spring season. Interesting to note when it comes to wheat, 41% of Kansas wheat, where we have it typically judge that crop for the rest of the nation, is what's going on in Kansas wheat. Well, it's poor to very poor. Just 30% of the national winter wheat crop is in good to excellent condition. And that is based on April 19th's winter wheat condition surveys. That was just out ahead of a freeze that happened in a lot of winter wheat growing regions. So keep that in mind as well. Today, hold on, I should check. Addison, do we have a weather report from Dean, or shall I just simply put together what I think is a good weather report for today? Could you? I should have asked that before we got started today, but I'd appreciate it if you'd run that for us so that folks get a more accurate weather forecast than what I might share. I guess that's our cue that's the weather for today. But I heard Dean say slippery travel in the west at some point in the next few days. Let's hope not. I'd like to think we're past that point, and I bet a lot of you would agree with that as well. For those who have questions as we go through today, you are certainly welcome to give a call. You can reach me at 701-293-9000. That would be the JLA Insurance phone line. Nate Thorsrud, he's a farmer too, and he keeps up with all the crop insurance changes and questions that you might have. And you can again reach him very easily at jlacropinsurance.com. Lighthouse Commodities brings us our live stream on YouTube, Facebook, and Acres TV. Today we have guests joining us, Denise Jonas and Shanda Cool. And when they join us, normally when we're talking about the Career Innovation Center with Fargo Public Schools and surrounding schools, we'd be going out and doing a visual tour of the area. Didn't quite work out like that today. You know, sometimes people can't be there to do what we need to have happen for that particular day. So better yet, Shanda and Denise are going to be joining us live. We're going to be doing an update on where things stand and what's been going on in that program. You want to make sure to still be paying attention to the live stream brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities for that discussion today. And emails, I'll keep an eye on them. And you can send me those emails, ag@flagfamily.com. I'll be checking those compliments of Superior Grain Equipment because they protect our farm's future with Superior Grain Storage, Drying, and Handling Solutions. Other items that have been coming up in the news headlines, I've got quite a list of them today. We'll try to get a number of them read for you. U.S. is hoping for a wider farm goods deal with China. If you're not hearing about this, the U.S. is aiming to get a bigger agreement on a larger range of farm goods purchased by China beyond just soybeans. And when President Trump visits there next month, that's part of the discussion they're going to be having. They're looking for a greater commitment from China, hoping that they can establish something that could also be what they consider non-sensitive goods. That may refer more to perishable, but certainly they want to see an increase in what we can do with agriculture. May that include something along the lines of more dairy? That's always possible. And let's see what some of our other export markets might be able to do to help in that situation. Additionally, eggs, well, they're spending more time on your dinner plate as we have seen beef prices increase. We're watching about a nearly 6% increase in eggs per person in the year from 2025, moving up in 2026. No, it wasn't all that long ago. Didn't we just have this talk about how expensive eggs were as far as a protein? But then in comparison to beef, they were still holding their own on the value chain. Well, now we're just seeing more and more egg consumption because of the things that are happening in regards to beef and other protein pricing at this point. Hershey, oh, how sweet it is. They're looking to boost their productivity and cut inventory after they've been deploying technology across their whole supply chain. They have invested in decision intelligence software that's gathering and analyzing what's happening in their supply chain and creating alert for their office managers. So, for example, on the factory floor, the decision intelligence notifies workers when they need more packaging if production gets ahead of plan. Now, there's thousands of decisions that happen across their supply chain just on a day-to-day basis, but they see the decision intelligence as an opportunity to increase their productivity by $50 million and reduce inventory by over $100 million in a 2-year time frame. In 2024, Hershey undertook a $250 billion supply chain and manufacturing project to boost their agility and their efficiency. And I think that reflects at the grocery store. For those of you who are into buying baking chocolate, etc., I have seen Hershey maintain their price level, even though we're watching higher prices on cacao coming off the Ivory Coast in Africa, which is happening due to not only drought conditions, but also some disease pressure on those plants. And this is the 3rd year in a row that they've had a decrease in supply, and we have watched incremental pricing on chocolate going right on up with it. So, just a couple of the things to keep in mind as far as headlines are concerned. Additionally, there is a new antibiotic for cattle and swine that's hitting the market. You might want to be talking about this with your veterinarian. The drug is in the antimicrobial category. It's a class of antibiotics that is very powerful and considered critically important. When we're talking about cattle, this would be labeled for the treatment of bovine respiratory disease, BRD, and we want to make sure that that discussion happens with the veterinarian. Sort of like being in a situation where you need a prescription from a doctor in order to be able to use this with your herd. What also is important is getting the dosing right. We want to keep in mind that brand name of this product is Pradalex, and it's a critically important antibiotic. It means that we don't want to be creating resistance. Resistance in animal health occurs when we're overusing or not using correct dosages. And so the discussion with your vet should include the accurate dosage for the weight of your animals. Yep, just like when you go to the doctor's office, sometimes you got to put that cow on a scale just to make sure you get everything done exactly the right way. When we return, we'll have the opportunity to visit with Shanda and Denise as we talk more about what's going on with the Career Innovation Center at Fargo, and we'll have more headlines coming up over the next hour, so stay tuned. We're talking about students today here on Weather and Ag in Focus, much like I've had many helping out over the last year and a half or so, I think you could say. And a thank you to Cass County Farm Bureau for helping to sponsor our Weather and Ag Assistant Ag Director when we have them come in for a day. Students have really remarked that this has been an outstanding opportunity for them to see the background and communications, not realizing what an impact radio has on the region, and I truly thank Cass County Farm Bureau for their participation in that, as well as to all the students who have been a part of it. Still want to make sure I fill the calendar for students throughout the summer. So if you have an interest, you are more than welcome to send me that email again, ag@flagfamily.com. And then keep that JLA insurance phone number handy, 701-293-9000, because after the 2 o'clock hour, you're going to be able to participate in Jay's phrase that pays. The Jay Thomas Show will have a opportunity for you to win cold hard cash by knowing the phrase that pays that when he announces it's time to call in. Thanks to Laney's, ATI Diesel, and JB's Barbecue for being a part of it, as well as the Red River Range. They are the cash sponsor for the week. Don't let road construction, not road rage, road construction, don't want to let you keep that away. The Red River Shooting Range in West Fargo is open and ready for you to take aim. Got a couple of gals in the studio today that are holding down the fort for me, and I truly appreciate it. Denise and Shanda are with the Career Innovation Center with Fargo Public Schools and the surrounding high schools in the area. All right, ladies, how does it feel to be in charge?
Hey, we have made ourselves at home here in your studio, and we are enjoying directing some traffic and asking for some requests from your technician, and I think we're ready to go.
Well, Addison will keep you under control and also be very, very helpful whenever you need it. That's what he does best.
He's been helpful already. Thank you, Bridgette, for having us on today.
Excited to have both of you here. So, Shanda and Denise, let's just give a little update on what's been going on with ag education and as we get ready to register students for the 26-27 school year. And by the way, did anybody else think, hold on, that means school's almost out? Wow, what a shock already.
It's amazing how fast the year swings, and our students are really looking forward to it, as well as our educators. We've been planning for 26-27 really since last September, and we're at this point where we have registrations. And thank you for hosting us in January at the Career Innovation Center to see our ag space. It just helped get the word out about what's happening in our community. And from that, it sparked some interest from our students in the community. And again, the Career Innovation Center is located out on 64th Avenue. And we have partnerships with Fargo, West Fargo, Northern Cass, and Central Cass school districts. And the building is NDSCS operated and owned by the Alumni Foundation. So it's quite a partnership. But now our goal is to fill the building with students who are interested in agriculture education. And through the registration process, we promoted 2 pathways, the animal sciences, and then also our area of plant sciences and plant systems. And what we found right now is our students have the greatest interest in the animal sciences area. So kicking off semester 2, we will have our small animal care and livestock sciences and veterinary sciences. And of course, foundationally, the intro to agriculture. And we're going to be really promoting, we have an online section and a face-to-face section. And then from there, we're just going to be really looking at continuing that promotion in the plant sciences and when we get into some more of those technical fields in agricultural education.
So I have lots of questions for all of this. You can see me over here furiously scribbling away. Okay, so this might be more of a Shanda question for the moment, and that is, when you think about the classes that you're working with, are you getting a lot of partners within private industry that are stepping up and saying, we want to be in the classroom with the students, we want to be able to help in some way, or are you looking for people who can be supplementary to what's going on in the curriculum?
Thank you for bringing that up, Bridgette. We are always looking for new partners to engage with our students. And we have definitely seen some amazing partners step up in our community, but we can always use more. And that brings us to kind of a special regional initiative that we're unveiling with the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber tomorrow morning. We're going to have an event at the Microsoft campus. And it's all about work-based learning. And we have kind of 3 new initiatives where, so if you're a business out there listening right now and you're thinking about how can I engage with students, what would this look like for my business to participate in work-based learning? You should come tomorrow. We can quickly get you registered. Reach out. You can go to the Chamber website, and it actually is called Work-Based Learning Insider Access. And if you just type that in, it'll pop up and there's a registration button. It's at 9 a.m. at the Microsoft campus. we're basically going to be unveiling three initiatives, and that is trying to get 25% of our high school seniors engaged in some meaningful work-based learning experiences. That's a big ask because that goes to our second initiative, which is that employer participation piece that you were talking about, Bridget. And
Hmm.
we would like to see 650 regional businesses reach out and become engaged in work-based learning by July 1st of 2027. And that's a huge ask. And that would cover Fargo, West Fargo, Northern Cass, Central Cass, all of the C3 tech schools, as well as we're working with Moorhead on this initiative. So, and then of course we want to see 100% of our students engaging in intentional career exploration by the time they graduate. So it's not a small feat, and I really thank you for highlighting that and asking that question.
Oh, we're going to keep talking about this. So go ahead, Denise.
I was going to say within that partnership too, even though today's focus is on the agricultural pathway and ag space, this does include many programs from aviation to diesel technology to marketing, business, information technologies, health sciences. And so as we think about just the diversity of our students in our schools and their interests and the employment opportunities and future careers, as we target this work experience, we're really looking for every type of business that we have in our community and in our region that our students can access.
I think what's really important here is to note the fact that employers should not be shy about saying, how can I help? Because it's time to be creative. Even if you're a small, let's call them small mom and pop shops, right? You're only a couple, three employees. Students are looking for that experience in some of those smaller areas versus larger corporations. They get a much more in-depth educational opportunity and employment opportunity than what they might get somewhere else. And I think it's vital just to not use that as a hurdle of, well, it's probably not going to work, but instead have that discussion with either one of you and let the creativity fly because you just never know how you might be able to make something work, correct?
Absolutely. It's not a one size fits all model. I mean, we
Yeah.
can reach out and individualize any sort of programming for you. That's the beauty of reaching out individually and talking to us and seeing what the possibilities are. So, if you're a smaller business, we welcome that. Sometimes it's easier to
Yeah.
participate in work based learning with smaller businesses because you have a little bit of that less of the red tape to go through and some of the bigger corporate, which we love our corporate partners, the big corporate partners. But
Hmm.
honestly, sometimes it's a little bit easier to engage those students in those smaller spaces. We don't want to leave anybody out.
What's
Never overlook creative options.
Yes, and I think it's important for those small businesses to know that it doesn't mean you have to take 5 students or 10 students. It can be one, just that one
Hmm.
student. But every one student has an interest in a space that they might find that that's their future career, and in some cases they might find out maybe it's not. And that has a
Hmm.
value add as that student either goes on to the workforce or plans to go to college, that they know that they've explored enough to know like this is really something that I can really get excited about. And every time the student is excited, we have a better worker and a better student and a better learner for our community.
I can't tell you how many times I have used exactly that first point you made, Denise. You need to learn what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Because
Yes.
I've had students in the past that came back and said, this putting on 5,000 miles a month, not for me. I need to find something different than, some of the things that we were having them do in that instance. Okay, there's a long line of questions here. Things like for the animal science, where are you going to find the animals to be working with? Do you need guest speakers for classes? And there's a whole list of items as well that we still want to get through that we talked about before the show. So after our bottom of the hour news, we'll continue the discussion. Thank you to Denise and Shanda for being here. They're with the Career Innovation Center here at Fargo Public Schools and the surrounding high schools, Northern Cass, Central Cass, etc. Send your questions to me or give us a call on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. It is spring. Often you see a farm equipment out in the fields flying U.S. flags, or they might be in a farmyard and hanging in the shop. Well, we at WDAY Radio want to help give out more of those flags. We're going to be teaming up with Landmark Company as well as Geronimo Power, and we'll be out delivering U.S. flags if you're in the field. Perhaps you're in the farmyard, wherever you might be over the next week or two. So be looking for us. We're going to be out flagging a farmer, handing out U.S. flags to those who can be flying them high and sharing their patriotic pride. I'm joined today by Denise and Shanda. Those ladies are with the Career Innovation Center. We have that as part of Fargo Public Schools, but then also I always think about our surrounding schools, Northern Cass, Central Cass, etc., and bringing real job opportunity, direct work experience to students in the region. I heard you mention earlier, Denise, a real focus on plant and animal sciences. So plants are easy. We can do greenhouses, we can have grow lights. Who's bringing the goat to school so we can work on vet sciences? How are you guys going to handle that one?
Well, that's an interesting piece that we're still working on. But the one thing that we've discovered in our community, often we don't think of our Fargo, West Fargo areas as agriculture, rural type areas because we don't have as our farms available. But what we do have within our city limits is NDSU, the Red River Valley Fairgrounds. And each of those locations, we have access to animals. And what we also learned in working closer together, we have all of these pockets of activity happening, but we don't really have an ecosystem of ag education in our community. And that's what I'm so excited to cultivate, is to make the connections come together. I was visiting with West Fargo's curriculum director and Heather Sand, and she informed me that I didn't know is that all of the kindergarten students partner and do an activity with NDSU. So 1,000 kindergarten students go up and they participate in that event.
That would be in May. I believe that's called Kitty Days, and that is put on by the Saddle and Sirloin Club at Shepherd Arena. And that's been a long-standing tradition for that club to bring those students in. As you mentioned, kindergartners. I think sometimes there's a day for daycares as well. It's a lot of kids interacting with all the species that NDSU can handle, from beef and dairy to swine and sheep.
Yes. And I think that's the piece where there's been moments in time in our growing community that maybe this teacher or an excited teacher that came from ag would take their class. What we're really trying to do is create a systems approach where groups of students, all kindergarten, and then we have access to all third and fourth graders that are doing some activities at the Red River Valley Fairground. And if we continue to create that structure, more students will be exposed to these types of careers and experiences. And so the animals will not be at the Career Innovation Center. They will be in our partner areas. We might be doing field trips. We might be, for sure we'll be doing field trips. But we did our last segment at Central Cass. And so also working with our rural communities. And so between the fairgrounds, potentially the rural communities, like how can we access our partners and do field trips in those locations where the animals actually are, and then we'll do most of the learning in hands-on, like plants and animal sciences background knowledge before they get there. So we're going to be figuring some things out with our partners, but at the same time we're still looking for those partners.
Well, one of the stories I have for later on today talks about folks in the sheep shearing industry. So there you go. You guys could start hosting a sheep shearing school like they do down in Iowa. Look at that. There's one more trade skill that people might need. We don't have the largest flocks here in North Dakota, but there are 5 million sheep across the U.S. and only about 500 professional shearers to take care of them. So look,
another occupation. Yeah,
absolutely. I could maybe find you some more people, especially somebody who just says, you want to practice sheep? Fine, I'll bring my sheep over. You shear them.
And animal production has become such a conversation in North Dakota. Even though it's been here, there's new areas that are talking about animal production. And I think about the Nome Schoolhouse is using some of those resources from those sheep to make a product. And so we have a lot of untapped ideas that could come together through our project.
And speaking of those ideas, sometimes it's just as simple as bringing someone as a guest speaker into the classrooms. So what's the right way to set that up? I mean, is that an email to Shanda to say, I work in ag, I have an industry skill, I would really love to be used as a resource when you need me for classroom things?
Absolutely. They can email me or Amy Campbell on the West Fargo side, but I can be the facilitator for any of our schools. And in addition to that, there is a business partner who is helping us with this event tomorrow. And it is Golden Path Solutions with Patrick Minear, and he has a program called Compass. And that is something that any of our businesses, I can help them sign up to be located in there, and they can choose how they would like to engage in the educational space. So they can pick, I'd like to job shadow, or I'm comfortable speaking in your class, or I'd even like to take a co-op student, and they can check all those boxes. And that's part of the event we're having tomorrow, to try to sign up more businesses in his program. So we have kind of a universal space where those businesses can pick where they'd like to engage.
You know, oh, go ahead, Denise. I think you had a comment there as well.
One of the things, too, to piggyback on when we're talking about the ag space at the Career Innovation Center, as a launch program, we are looking for an educator that will be at the center. And so we'll be posting that position, and it will be right now starting out part-time instruction. But another piece, and working with the Chamber of Commerce and this whole eco space, is just thinking about the other half of the position is going to be an ag education teacher, and we're going to call it a pathway activator. And so some folks might think of that as a recruiter, but this person would be in this space to help make these connections. So as we continue to move through this teacher would also be available to also be a part of that community partnership to help get into the classroom as well. So we have this is just in preliminary discussion with our partners, but we are really excited to make that combination be a full-time position as we continue to grow this concept in our Career Innovation Center.
And they get to work with me every day at the CIC.
Well, and I like the idea that, you guys have taken this focus on agriculture, which has been gone. The last time there was an FFA chapter and our ag program was in West Fargo in the early 90s. And it is time to start bringing all of that back, because whether it's through production agriculture, but also processing, particularly as we have such an increase, not only in machinery, but food processing and so many more areas, these are skill sets that we want students to have. Not everything can be done by AI. And so they need to know how to do those hands-on skills and maybe incorporate AI as a tool, but we still need those students and those employees in the future. That's a huge step of what we're trying to train here.
Right. And in our last visit to the CIC, we shared a little bit of the culinary and plant space that we'd want to do more hands-on production. We didn't have enough interest. And I think one of the things we've realized is students just don't know what it looks like in our community. Right. So we really have to get started ground at the grassroots of what it is and what it can be. And I can be that person in an urban community. So we're excited to get started and then advance into those other areas as well.
That's a good point. You're not going to get excited about a job if you haven't the faintest idea what it does or how you got there.
Correct.
So
yes.
That's really starting at the level of education for everyone to understand what they do need to know going down the road. Okay. That helps tremendously.
And I think that we're looking at this elementary investment. It's a long game. It's not a short sprint. Yeah. And we are looking at what does it look like for elementary students to be exposed and then continue some activities into that middle school, 8th grade, and then have the course elective options at the high school.
I also think that we don't want to forget, you've got the partnerships, as you said, with NDSU, but also with the Red River Valley Fair for their Ag Education Center. The Red River Valley Fair always looks for people to be volunteers. So if you're listening and you think, you know what, there are some weekday mornings I could spend a couple hours out there helping be a tour guide for students through the Fargo Public School System and West Fargo and others. You don't have to come in specifically trained in any particular area. Everything is pretty much laid out for you, but there needs to be some adult supervision. And if you would be willing to come in and spend some time on some weekday mornings in order to be a part of that to help the students, I think you will find the excitement very high, and it'll be a lot of fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
So
I think Emily and Cody Cashman are doing a fabulous job just igniting the activities, and they're and thousands of students are going through that building and that program. So it's impressive with the work that they're doing.
Things are changing there very quickly.
My daughter is a 4th grader, and that was her favorite day in 3rd grade and 4th grade when she went up to the Red River Valley Fair. Those were her favorite school days. She said, I wish every day was out at the Red River Valley Fair.
So will the two of you be at North Dakota State FFA convention the first week of June to learn more about what's happening there? I mean, there's a whole career fair that's put on for students that maybe you can spark some ideas as well.
Yes, I just received an email today from Nikki at the State Department of Career and Technical Education inviting educational leaders to come in, and I actually just marked my calendar. So I have to tell you that the first time I had not been to a state FFA convention ever in my life, and I went to the NDSU, the older building. It wasn't in the shack.
Oh, no, before we were in the field house. Now it's at the shack.
Yes,
Yes.
and the field house was full of Blue Jackets, and I tell you, it just really gave me chills. I was just so impressed, and they were so dedicated. It was impressive to be a part of it. So I plan on going again this year.
All right. I'm looking forward to seeing you both there. I have a tendency to stop by a few times during that week as well. So one more time, tomorrow's event, Shanda, where's that at and how can people get signed up?
It is at the Microsoft Commons, and if you go to the Fargo Moorhead West Fargo Chamber page, just Google it, Fargo Moorhead West Fargo Chamber. It's under their events, Insider Access, Work-Based Learning. It's tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. You do need to click register, and it just takes your name down because we will be on the Microsoft Commons where they need to check your ID when you come in. But it's totally worth it. It's totally free. And if you have any questions about work-based learning or just want to make that personal connection and see everybody, we'll have students talking about their experience as well as some of our business partners on what it looks like to be successful in work-based learning in our area. Please come 9 a.m., about 9 to 10:30.
Okay, excellent. Ladies, thank you so much for coming in today and joining us to give us an update and just talk through what's happening within agricultural education in the region.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Bridgette.
Bridget.
We appreciate all the time you've given us this semester to just tell some stories. So we hope to continue our conversation as we advance everything in 26-27.
I look forward to it as well. So, for those who are listening, I still have some headlines. We're going to once again touch on the weather. And all my headlines are things like sheep shearing, soybeans, and probably more things that start with S. We'll be right back. Just a little bit earlier, you heard me make mention of the sheep shearing industry. And no lie, they're looking for more folks to come into that business. Now, it's a little tougher than one might anticipate. Sheep shearing sounds like it's an easy thing. Hey, I'm just giving a sheep a haircut. But you've got to be able to pick up that animal, set them on their tail, because when sheep sit on the down like that, almost like a dog, they really don't move. And they actually kind of balance well. And now you've got to bend over and be able to shear them in a fairly methodical manner without nicking their skin underneath. You want to make sure you can get as close to the hide as you can so that you make sure that you get the right amount of wool off the animal, but you got to be a little careful with it. And there really aren't that many sheep shears available anymore. Some of the problems that they have with that is simply because, one, it's seasonal. So generally you're working for 6 to 8 months out of the year, but then the other 6 to 4 months, you've got to figure out what you're going to do for continued income. The wool is not really a additional dollar amount that's raised off the animal. Wool right now is probably only bringing in 1 or 2 cents per pound. So you have to shear the sheep because it's the right thing to do for them, especially as they approach lambing. And it's like a haircut. Things get really long. You've got to get that cut off, but it's not profitable when it's time to go sell the wool. I have seen some changes in the wool industry. One of the things that they're trying to do is to take the extra wool, create pellets that can then be sold and used in your garden. So you'd sprinkle them through your garden rows, incorporate them into the soil, and they're a water retention pellet. So the wool soaks up moisture and then would release the moisture as plants need it during dry spells. The eventual goal is to be able to do it in field on a large scale production. That's going to take a lot, and I'm not sure we're going to quite get there. And overall, we've had quite a decline in sheep farms. Back in 2017, we had about 100,000 sheep farms. Now we're closer to about 89,000, and they're typically smaller herds. There's usually some pretty fast deadlines. You got to get from the point of weather being good to shear, but before you get too much rain. Who wants to cut wet wool off of a sheep? That doesn't store well either. Other S things to talk about, as we said, let's talk about soybeans. Heat-treated soybeans, actually. For a long time, we've used distiller's grain, which are a byproduct of the ethanol process, to be a primary source of supplemental protein in cattle diets, especially beef animals. We've been doing it for more than 20 years, and it really ramped up as our ethanol production changed over the last few years as well. A lot of cattle feeders and nutritionalists have worked in using DDGs as more of the norm than not. But agriculture never remained static, and those DDGs were priced at a significant discount to corn. Well, now those feedstuffs are priced nearly the same as a unit of dry matter. Soybeans, though, are hanging around the area. And what could it mean to use heat-treated soybeans? Well, when you roast the soybeans, that offers some fairly interesting attributes that could enhance cattle growth. Applying that heat to the feed can alter the structures, but gives better degradation in the rumen of the animal and greater potential absorbency in the small intestine for the protein. So soy-based protein really also contains more lysine, which in comparison to corn, and that's important for the digestion, essential amino acids for increased growth, etc. So including soybeans in the cattle diet really creates an energy density that becomes, because of the oil in the soybeans, can help out that animal in its growth and overall efficiency. So there you go. Soybeans being more actively used in diets, especially for beef animals. Looking forward to tomorrow. Don't forget, we'll have Market Uncovered with Greg Hansen at 1:20. We'll also be joined by North Dakota Ag Commissioner Doug Goring as we continue our discussion about North Dakota's and the United States' 250th anniversary. Well, the U.S. first. North Dakota, we're going to get there after a little time. Looking forward to the Jay Thomas Show next. Stay tuned for that.